Okay, guys. Yesterday we discussed field properties. Remember, right? Okay. So where were you yesterday? All right, let's get started, guys. Then yesterday we discussed field properties. Remember, we discussed all of them. We had we discussed the field properties, right? Yesterday. Um, huh. I don't think we discussed all the field properties though. Did we?
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
No. Ritinka says no. What all field properties did we discuss? Because I get confused between batches. I think in your batch I discussed the um, no field properties. Did we discuss all of them? No, I don't think so.
Sir, I asked you about the field properties. You said that I'll discuss this later.
Okay, then we will discuss now. Alrighty, let's look at the field properties here, okay, guys? If you remember, we discussed the data types and so on and so forth. What are different data types and so on and so forth. Now let's look at the number of field properties which keep changing depending upon what? Depending upon the data type of the field that we select. For some data types, it is more. Some data type it is less. Field properties is less and field properties is more. For example, let's take EDNO, which is a number data type, and let's see what are the options which we have here. The first thing is field size. We know that we discussed that number has variety of different field sizes ranging from byte all the way to decimal and double and whatnot, right? Format, how do you want to display the number? General format and so on and so forth. Date also has format applicable. You'll see date has format applicable. How do you want to display the date? But short text or text data does not have format. It's blank, right? Uh, Publishing status, which is yes, no, will also have format. True, false, on, off. Decimal place, how many decimal places accuracy you want? Okay. But addition number क्या कोई जरूरत नहीं. Input mask we will skip for now. We will discuss later. Now caption. Now what is a caption? Caption is a label that you create on top of the field name. For example, most of the time the field names are very short. Short field names. Short field names meaning, let's say EDNO, right? Easier to type. When you are referring to EDNO in our SQL queries, it will be easier to type. However, a layman who's looking at EDNO as a field name here, okay, let me go back. A layman who's looking at EDNO as a field name may not understand what EDNO really stands for, right? But if we elaborate it, then in SQL queries as well, or in any kind of system purpose, we'll have to refer to addition number as a phase, which may have space and so forth. The longer the text, the more chances of human error, spelling errors. However, for datasheet view, it makes sense to have a little more, a little more elaborate term for field names. So if you really want to do that, then you can create a caption. And this caption, the moment I write, let's say something here, addition number, right? What will this caption do? This caption will then be applied to which field? To this EDNO field. I get your point. Clear? Now, if I go to the datasheet view, it'll show it as addition number. But for all system related purpose, if you have to refer to this field, then we'll refer to this field as EDNO. Make sense? What is the default value? What do you think? Suppose if I make something as default value as 99, then what happens? Even though I have not entered anything in the addition number, but 99 will be there. Even if I don't enter anything, it will be there. Does that make sense? What is validation rule? Validation rule can restrict the entries or restrict the values that can be entered in a particular field. Suppose I want addition number to be only 2 digit long. Can't be less than 2 digit, can't be more than 2 digit. So it has to be greater than 9 and it has to be less than 100. So greater than 9 and less than 100. Now if I enter the data here, suppose if I say 7, they'll give me an error saying that one or more values that you have entered is prohibited by the validation rule this for the books.edino field. Please enter the expression for this. Please enter a value for this expression for this that this field can accept. I get your point. So validation rule can increase the quality of data in your data sheet by putting a restriction. So many times, when you enter mobile number and if you entered one digit lesser, the system automatically flags you saying that, hey, mobile number is invalid, please check it. So again, same thing here. Now it can be a little more complex as well. For example, we have title, right? And you want to ensure that all books title have at least 2 characters. That means the length of the number of characters or the length of the strings, length of which string? Length of title string should be greater than equals to 2. I get your point. So now here the validation rule even is a little more interesting, so or more complex. So I'll go to something called as expression builder for validation rule. And how do I go there? So under validation rule field, you will see there is a button here. When I click on this button, it will give me this expression builder, and this is where I can create the expression builder, that I can use some function. So which function will help me calculate the number of characters in a string? What do you think? Which function in general, like in Excel as well or in other tool? Len function. Remember, len function helps you to calculate the total number of characters in a string. Len. So I can see, even if you don't remember that's the function, that's fine. You can see the functions here, functions, built-in functions, and the function I'm looking for is under text and len. Len gives you the number of characters in a string. Number of characters in a string. So I'm going to double click on it. So len, and what is the string here? The string is title. Len of title should be greater than equals to 2. That is the condition that we have created. Does it make sense? Clear? Hmm? Oh. This code is input mask, which we will discuss next. You see input mask here, which we will discuss next. Similarly, I mean, Abhinav, in the same fashion as we applied the validation rule for this thing, that the length should be equals to 10. Suppose if there is a field here called as mobile number, and you have so obviously you will not want to store mobile number as number. You will want to store mobile number as text. And then in the validation rule, you would have applied the same rule where, I mean, len of mobile number is equal to 10. That's it. Now, suppose if I enter title as R, obviously it will not accept because it's only one character. But if I enter RR, it will accept it. Does that make sense? So these are all ways to ensure that the data that we end up collecting is error free and more accurate. Validation text means whatever validation error message that we got, right? Okay, I mean, obviously, you're not put it something like that, but anyway, got the idea. A field is required or not required, yes or no. By default, it will be no, and then it's up to you if you want to make it yes. If you make it yes, that means it is a mandatory field and can't be left blank, right? But then there is one more interesting option here called as allow zero length as allow zero length yes or no. Now, where it becomes interesting, allow zero length becomes interesting is when it is used along with required yes. Give me a second, guys. Mobile number data type should be text, Gargi. And the reason why it should be text is that you're not going to do any calculations on it, and you want to put restrictions on the number of digits and so forth, which becomes easier with text data type. Okay. Now, required yes and allow zero length yes. Where it could become interesting is that suppose a field which is required yes, right, which is the title field right now. Now, if I go here Now, if I just press enter, oh wait, there is a contradiction. Contradiction is that there is a length. Suppose in the title field, I enter, I press enter, just that's nothing else. Yeah. So it's a required field, yes, but allow zero length is also yes, right? So give me a second, let me check. Let me check the setting. So I have not entered anything in the title field, right? Yet it allowed me to go to the next one. That means it allowed me to create the new one. And that happened because allow zero length is enabled. Now you see, one may wonder, what could be the application of some a contradictory feature like this, wherein in one side we are saying it is required, in the other side we are saying it is zero length is allowed. You see, what happens is this setting is good for fields which are mandatory, but for some short period of time you don't have the data for that. For example, when you apply for PAN card, you send all your documentations and everything, or you fill up online forms and everything to the income tax department, and income tax department basically gives PAN card to anyone who applies if your papers are in order. So they have a timeline that within 72 hours that we have to give you a reply with the PAN card and everything. So when they receive the document or when your data is uploaded into a system, so there is a PAN card column as well, and there is a notion that yes, within 72 hours that the PAN card column will be filled, right? It's just that we don't have that data right now. I get your point. So it's a required field, but for this time period of say 72 hours, you know, we still have to store other data, right? So we make it as allow zero length yes. What developers do with such a setting, they see that if there is a field in the database which is required yes and allows zero length is also yes, so what happens is periodically it keeps reminding people, it keeps reminding the person who's entering the data that hey, do you now have the PAN card ready for this record, do you now have the PAN card ready, do you now have the PAN card ready, maybe after every few hours or maybe daily, once in the morning or something like that. That's how they use this setting. Does that make sense? Text in an element is what? How do you want to display the data? Left align, right align, general, justified, or however you want to display the data. Now I'm going to go to title field. Here you'll see one more option called as indexed. Now what is indexed? So there are three options here. No, which is the default. That means the field is not indexed. And then if you want to index, then there are two more options: index, duplicates, okay, and no duplicates. Where else have you heard of index? In which other context have you heard of index? While reading non-fiction books, while reading non-fictional academic books, normally you see index at the end. And what do you see in that index? And why is that index there? What do you see in that index? You see key topics from that book listed in alphabetically sorted fashion, and in the next column the page numbers where those key topics have been discussed in this particular book or in that particular book, right? Why is that index there? So that anyone who's reading the book and who wants to quickly go to a specific topic does not have to flip through all the pages to understand where that topic is. Instead, he can go to the index table quickly and she can find where the page numbers are, where that particular topic is discussed in detail. Does it make sense? Clear? Right? Clear, guys? Similarly, here what happens is, in case of tables, in a non-index scenario, suppose this is books table. Suppose this books table has 100,000 books information, 1 lakh books information, not a big deal. Now, in what order the books information is stored in the books table? In which order? No, it is not stored in alphabetical order. It is stored in the order in which the books information was provided. It is not stored in any sorted fashion or anything like that. It is just stored in the order in which the book's information was inserted into the table. And whoever inserted the book's information might not have inserted the data in any specific sorted order, right? So what happens is, suppose someone is searching for a book called as Babylon. Now, in the title field, it's not necessary that it has to be unique. Two books may have same name but different ISBNs. So let's say first Babylon is in the first is in the 100th row. The second Babylon is after 5,000th row, and the third Babylon is after 10,000th row. Right? Since the data is not sorted in any specific order, so system will start searching for Babylon in which row onwards? First row onwards until which row? Until the last row of the table. So for every such title search, the system has to go through each and every record of the table. And if it's a large table, 1 million records, 10 million records, 100 million records, then for every search, it has to go through each and every record. It's like flipping through each and every page in order to find a specific topic in a book. So obviously, it'll take longer time. The searches will become significantly longer. So, but if you have created an index on the title field, if you have created an index on the title field and you've said, let's say duplicates okay because this field can have duplicates values. So then what will happen? Then what will happen is that it'll create for every field that is indexed, the system will create a system hidden index table. Since it's system hidden, so you can't really see with naked eyes, the databases don't actually allow anyone to actually see because it's proprietary way of storing the index. But generally, what is there in that index table is you will see two columns. The first column is the field on which the index has been created, and the values for that is stored in alphabetical fashion. Are you getting my point? right? Here, the titles are stored in alphabetical fashion. So if there are multiple Babylons, they'll be right next to each other, or multiple books having the same name, they'll be right next to each other. And in the second column, what is stored? The position address in which table? In the mother table, in the original table. So now, in an index scenario, if someone searches by, let's say, title field, let's say someone is searching for Babylon book. So the system, instead of going to the main table, it'll go to the index table. And since the data is stored in alphabetical order, so it'll directly go to B and it'll find, okay, there are two Babylons right next to each other. And then the moment Babylon is over, the moment it encounters cats, then it'll understand that there are no more Babylon. So with these two Babylons position number, it'll go to the original table. Position number meaning, let's say, row numbers. It'll go to those specific row numbers and get all the data about those two books. I get your point. So it reduces what? It reduces the search time, the time to search, right? The system doesn't have to go through each and every record then. Is it making sense? Clear? Clear, guys? But something becomes slower with indexing. What do you think will become slower? No, Simanti, we can't see the index table after it is created. It's a system hidden table. You can see index created on, I mean, the fields on which the index has been created, but you can't see. For example, for the title field, there is an index. Index sorting order is ascending, but you can't see the actual table. You can only see the fields on which the index has been created.
So it is the update which gets slow.
The updates will become slower. That's right, Ritankar. What will become
Because
slower with indexing?
it is written but may
Updates.
slow update.
Why the updates will become slower? Well, actually, is written over here. May slow updates. You see this? Why the updates will become slower? Because you see, whenever you will insert a new record, first you'll insert in the mother table, and then the system will insert part of it in the index tables as well, depending upon how many fields you have indexed. Whenever you will make some changes to the existing rows, again those changes will have to be trickled into the index tables as well. So the updates will take longer time, but searches will become significantly faster, right? And also it increases the overhead because there is an index table that is created now. So my question to you, two questions. First question is, do we create index on tables or do we create index on fields of the tables? We create index on the table or on the fields of the tables? Fields of the table. You saw that, right? Because indexing is an option field wise. For example, for EDNO, there is no indexing that we have selected. For title, we have selected the indexing duplicates, okay. All primary key fields are by default indexed with no duplicates. You can see this. I did not do it, but it was by default indexed. All primary key columns are by default indexed. Does that make sense? What automation are we talking about? Switch. What kind of automation are we talking about? So Ashwarya's question is: should index be placed on columns having null values? Well, if the column has only null values, then what is the point of even having that column? That's one. Assuming your question is that what if some values are null in a column? No problem. It doesn't really affect indexing. Um, the second part of your question is, oh, that depends upon the algorithm that is used by the. Again, you see, these are some of the proprietary things that's how different databases differentiate from other databases. So they never disclose. Like, for example, Google never discloses how it really indexes web pages because that's what their main algorithm is, right? Null values may come up in the top, may go down at the bottom, depending upon really the indexing algorithm used by the system. Really, I mean, if I were to design a database, I would say that null values will go at the bottom. The reason is that people will not search by null values. Would you ever search by null values? Typically, you will search by title names, book names. Would you search by books? Would you search for books which do not have names? Probably not so much. You see what I'm saying? So it's very simple. Whatever people will search more frequently by should be upfront in the indexing table. That's how Google makes money. They say that whichever website is more popular should be up at the top of the index. I get a point. More popularity, more authority, more visibility, more engaging, where people spend more time and so forth. Right? Clear, guys? Clear? Now, here's the thing. If you want to make a column unique, you see there is no option here to make a column unique. There is an option to make a column required and all of that, but no column to make it unique. So how do we make a column unique? We change the indexing option to no duplicates. I get a point. Suppose if you want to make title column as unique, then you will make it as no duplicates. Will does it mean that that title column will become required? Yes, required as well. No, not necessarily. A column may be indexed with no duplicates, but may still not be required. I get a point. That's the only way to make a column unique. In other words, all unique columns are also indexed. Does it make sense? Do not worry about Unicode compression, IME mode, sentence mode. These are used by software programmers, interface programmers who are writing code to interface with databases. So don't worry about them. I want to talk about one more option here called as input mask. Now, what is an input mask? Input mask is a way to ensure that the data that you collect is again error free. In other words, many times when you are collecting the data, when you're entering the data in web forms, let's say for example, when you're entering telephone number, so it shows you three dashes, then three spaces, then one dash, then four spaces, then one dash, then four spaces, right? So it's like the first three dashes were for the STD code, then digits, and so on and so forth, right? So this called as an input mask. He asked that when we enter credit card, so when we enter the credit card, automatically puts a hyphen after four digits. Then again it puts a hyphen after eight digits and so on and so forth, right? So how does it do? So that is done using input mask. Now how does it work? So I'm going to click on this button here in the input mask. Last to save the table, that's fine. You'll see that a few input masks are by default created. So you can use any one of them, or you can edit one of them, or you can create a new one as well. So the one that I'm going to use, let's say, let's just click on edit list. We'll go to the, so this is a blank one, okay, which we will create. Description, let's call it as ISBN, whatever. Input mask. Now here I'm going to click on help because I don't expect you to remember the characters that we will use in input mask. Input mask is used with certain set of characters. When I say characters, meaning, for example, here these underscore 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 are placeholders, whereas this bracket open and closing parenthesis are not placeholders. They cannot be replaced with something. Placeholder is something that can be replaced with the data that the user is entering. Hyphen is not a placeholder here, but the underscores are placeholders, right? I get a point. So what can we use as placeholders, what cannot be used as placeholders, and so forth. Let's say the input mask that we want to put in ISBN is, we want to say ISBN hyphen then two digits, then hyphen then two alphabets, then hyphen then two digits. Did you understand this? So the first four characters would be ISBN, then hyphen then two digits, then hyphen then two alphabets, then hyphen then two digits. So to create an input mask like that, look at this. Characters that define input mask, right? Character and explanation. So the character 0, when you write 0 in the input mask, then user must enter a digit wherever you have written a 0. Must enter. When you write 9, user can enter. It's optional. When you write hash, the user can enter a digit, space, or minus, or a plus sign. When someone writes capital L, the user must enter a letter, question mark, the user can enter a letter, capital A, the user must enter a letter or a digit, small a, user can enter a letter or a digit, and so on and so forth. Okay, these are the most important ones. So the kind of input mask, anything else that you enter other than those characters will be just shown as you enter them. So for example, ISBN. ISBN wasn't, IS and BN were not there in the characters list here. So they will be shown as ISBN hyphen 00 because I said two digits, right? And I want them to be mandatory, right? So 00 hyphen LL for, so 00 is user must enter a digit, capital L is for user must enter a letter. Then hyphen, then what? Then what? Then two zeros again, right? What is the placeholder? Now you can decide to put any, you can designate any one of these, any of the characters as placeholders, like underscore, hash, maybe at the rate. Normally, the most common placeholder is underscore. Okay, because it looks like a blank. And the sample data, you'll have to enter the sample data, 89, and then you see again here. If I try to enter number, it won't accept it. This is the sample data. Close it, and then select the one that you just created. Finish. So this is the input mask that you just created. Then if you go to the datasheet view, the moment you type in anything, where did we create the input mask? Oh, I'm so sorry. We created the input mask on the wrong field. We had created the input mask in the title field. Ideally, we should have created the input mask in the this ISBN. So the moment you write anything, you will see. So now here again, if you try to enter numbers, it won't take it. You have to enter this. Clear? Does it make sense? So it helps you to control the data quality. All right. Make sense? Clear, guys? All right. I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then we'll take a small break. One more field properties called as lookup. Now, what is the use of lookup? You see, many times when you're filling up profile information on websites, so when you go to state or country, so they give you a drop down. That is called as a lookup. And that drop down, you can't enter your own country. I want to write my own country name. No, you can't. You have to select from one of the countries which are given there, isn't it? Right? So, let's say in the publisher table, we want to create a column for, let's say we want to create a column for country. We want to create a column for country. So how do we create a column for the country? So there are two ways to create lookups. One is the manual way by actually going here and then by typing the field name and then going to lookup and so forth. And the other is the wizard way. Wizard way will ask you some questions and then you provide answers to it and it will automatically create the lookup for you. So I'm going to first show you the wizard way. That's the more friendly one to. So I'm the design view of this table, right? And I don't create anything. I just there in the table. Then I go to modify lookups. If you're using older version of MS Access, then it'll show insert lookup or just lookup column, something like that. But basically, when you go there, then it'll give you this lookup wizard option. Make sense? And then the lookup wizard option will actually give you two options. One first option is that I want the lookup field to get the values from another table or query. Suppose if there was another table which already had a field called as country and the values were given there, then you could have just created a relationship with that column here. But if there is no such, like in our case, we don't have any such column in any other table. So we'll say this, we'll go with the second option, which says I will type in the values that I want. Right? Next. Then we'll say how many lookup columns are we trying to create? We are trying to create only one lookup column. So that's one. And what are the values that we want to write? Another table cannot be in Excel here. How will you relate from here to Excel? Hmm? Suppose these are the fields. Now, so first import, then you will be able to do it then Akash. What label would you want, would you like for your lookup field to have? Let's say, let's call it as pub country. The second, do you want to limit the entries to the choices? If you don't select this option, then what would happen is the user will have the option to select or user will have the option to type in its own value and that value will be accepted. I get a point. So it really depends upon you whether you want a restricted. Now in a country kind of a field, obviously you would want user not to type because not to type its own country because there's a defined list of countries only, right? So I'll say limit to list. One more question: do you want to store multiple values for this lookup? That means let's say a publisher has offices in multiple countries. So let's say India, UAE, USA. You want to allow doing that? You can, but then it will defy the which nomination rule? The first part of the first nomination rule, which says each cell should carry a single value and not list of values because then the reporting becomes difficult. I get your point. So we'll not select this option for now. Finish. Oh, it was created in the last batch. Let's call it as pub country 2. So it has created a column called as pub country, right? Right? Make sense? If you're using the older version of Access, then it won't show you, it won't ask you the second question, which is, do you want to allow multiple values? But still, there is a manual way of doing it. That's not a problem. I'll tell you what is the way. So you understood. We created the lookup field. I'll show you how it looks like here. So you can see, you can select, right? Now, if I write any other, So it will say that no, it's not part of the list. But then here you see one more thing. What is that? It says edit list items. If I click on this icon, then it gives me the list of countries and then it allows me to edit it. That means you can add one more if you wish. And that will become part of it. But even this is not allowed more in most of the cases, right? So how do we disable this? So in order to disable this, I will take the manual route. So I'll go to pub country and then I'll go to the lookup tab in the design view. I'll not be worried about rest of the things because I mean it's really not a big deal. Whatever we have entered are here actually. What I'm more concerned about is one option here called as allow value list edits, which is by default yes. Now if I make it as no, then it won't show you that option. See, that option is no longer there, right? And if you're using the 2007 version of Access and you don't see the allow multiple values thingy here, you can always select it from here, right? It says allow multiple values as no because we put no there. We did not select that. Clear, guys? So that's how we create that. Now let's do this exercise here. Open the books database that we created yesterday, right? Now, what I want you guys to do is I want to do these 5 questions. Create an index field in each table in addition to the primary key field. Just make any one of the fields as indexed. See, create an input mask for for the ISBN field, and the pattern is given over here. Create a country lookup field in the publisher table, just like how I did. In the books table, the price column should be greater than 0. So what validation you have to put, you can decide. In the books table, the edition number field should have default value is 100. Okay, let's work on it. The same database that we used yesterday, the books database, right? You all have it, right? The books database. Let's do it. So guys, what's the status on these 5 questions? Are you guys done? Yeah, done. Sameer, 1 and 4. One is very easy, Anup. Just go to the design view, make one of the columns, let's say pub name as index. Anyway, no duplicates here. That's it. It's not a big deal actually. Fourth is the price column should be greater than 0. So let's say we go to the books table and there is a price column. So the validation rule is greater than 0. That's about it. दो तीन और दे दो ना. Okay. And the len one, which is the len one? There's no need to use len function here because it's just greater than 0, right? Sure, I can show you the len one. Suppose title. Here the validation rule, suppose if I want to apply is len. That's it. Alright. Alrighty guys. The next thing that we're going to do today is SQL now. So what is SQL? What is the full form of SQL? Remember we discussed in the first class, structured query language. But the name is a misnomer because not only used for querying. In fact, whatever we have done so far in Access as well, behind the scene there were SQL statements that ran. When we created a table, there was an SQL statement that ran. When we removed a table, dropped a table, then there is an SQL statement ran. When we inserted data, again there was a SQL statement. When we updated data, again there was a SQL statement. Okay, so whatever we have done, there are three main tasks that we do with any databases, right? We create the design, we populate or manipulate the data, and then we query it. So all the three tasks are done using SQL commands. I get my point. Does that make sense? So the name itself is a misnomer. It is very English friendly. It's not exactly English per se, but it is English friendly, which has and it has its own structure that you have to follow. So if I showed you some SQL queries right now, even if it is the first time in your life you're looking at them, you would still be able to make out as to what those queries will end up doing. So it's very easy to learn. Okay, and that's the reason why it is so famous as well. And it is not owned by any company. It is universal in nature. That means any relational databases or any reporting tool which works with transaction or relation data will support SQL, be it Excel, be it VBA, be it SAS, R, Python. They all support SQL for data manipulation. And that's the reason why it becomes so important. The databases by any of the companies, Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, they all support SQL. Does that make sense? Already? So if you learn SQL in one platform, you can pretty much work with SQL in any other platform. It's like to be able to speak English. If you speak English in one country, you can speak English in any other country. Does it make sense? The SQL statements which are part of creation are called as data definition language statements or database definition language statement. Short form is DDL. SQL statements which are part of data manipulation, population, and querying are called as manipulation language statements. Data manipulation language statements. There is one more SQL statement type called as data control language statements, DCL, which we will not discuss, and I'll tell you the reason why I will not discuss later. In the DDL statements or design related statements, there are three main commands: create, alter, and drop. Whatever we have created so far, we created table, then we went to design view, we created the columns, we assigned the data types, we assigned constraints like primary key, we created relationships. All those things that we've done in the design view in the relationship window would be done using create, or was done using create. Does that make sense? Alter, let's say the design is there, let's say table is there, now you want to add a new column to that table, then you use alter with that. Let's say you want to change the data type of an existing column of a table, then you'll use alter. Let's say you want to drop a column from a table, then you'll use alter with drop. Does that make sense? So alter can be used with three subcommands: alter with add, alter, and alter with drop. If you want to drop the table completely, then you use drop table publisher or drop table, whatever table you want to drop. I get your point. All these commands, create, alter, drop, and any of these DDL statements, these statements will commit transaction. That means will make changes which cannot be reversed. That is why they're called as they're very risky. Suppose if you happen to delete a drop a table, then there is no way to retrieve it unless you have taken a backup of the database. I get a point. So these transactions which are done by these DDL statements are all committed transactions. Committed meaning done and dusted kind of a thing. They cannot be reversed. Make sense? Population commands or data manipulation commands are insert, update, and delete. So if you want to insert a new row, then you'll use insert. If you want to delete a row, then you'll use delete. If you want to change the data of an existing row, then you'll use update. Does that make sense? Whatever we did in the design in the datasheet view, we inserted a row, we deleted a row, we changed the data. All would be done using these commands: insert, update, and delete. Whatever we did in the design view would be done with these commands: create, alter, and draw. Right? And then when you want to query the data, get the data out, extract the data based on some conditions, then you'll use select to create queries. I get your point. As an analyst, 90% of your time will go into writing select queries. Got it? With select, you can neither modify the data nor can you alter the design. You only extract information based on conditions. What we will do is that we will start with select. We'll spend a couple of classes on select, and rest of these commands, we will finish in less than 1 hour. Okay, because whatever logic and brain that had to be applied in designing the database, we have already spent a lot of time in understanding how to design the database, and after that, it's just running these commands. But in select, there's a lot of mathematical brain that will go into in creating different queries, working with data from different tables, and so forth. Okay, so we'll start with select. That means I'm going to give you a database which will have tables in it, and the tables will have data in them. Is it making sense? Remember, with select, you can not modify. I mean, you can neither modify nor can you can neither modify the data nor can you modify the design. You just extract information. Is it making sense? I'm going to upload a couple of things right now. So first, I'm uploading the SQL reference materials that I'll tell you about. Then I'm uploading database to use in SQL practice assignments, right? Now this is the database that we will keep using in all the assignments that we will do in the class. So go ahead and download this database, which says class database, class tables, and student database, right? It has a few tables in that, and then the tables have data in them. Vikas, how come you're not part of the students community here? Vikas, this is the fourth class today. Are you a registered student, Vikas? So how come you're not part of this batch? Were you there yesterday, Vikas? What's your email ID? Vikas School Pandey. Whose email ID is that, Ashwarya? How come you are not there in the class? Oh, you're doing the course to refresh your alrighty. Good job, Ashwarya. Hope everyone has downloaded this database. Yeah. Everyone has downloaded the file. So I'm going to also use a similar database, not exactly the same. In the sense, my tables are called the same. They may also have similar headings, but the data is different. My table is a little more dirty than yours. So that means the tables may look the same, the columns may look the same. The query that we will end up running will be the same. The only thing is the outputs may differ. So don't compare your outputs with my output, okay, for the same query. Now, what this database has multiple tables: student table, bridge table, chess table, music table, and so forth. First, we will learn how to extract information from a single table. Then gradually we'll learn how to work with multiple tables, okay, together in a joint fashion, in a intersection fashion, and so forth. So for now, go ahead and open this database, and then you see the student table that it has all these fields. ID, full name, date of birth, sex, class, H code. H code is what? House code. Like we used to have in school, red, blue, green, yellow, or Ashoka, Shivaji, and so forth. Uh, D code is district code, and what is remission? Remitted, whether a person has paid the fees or not. If it is tick mark, that means the person has paid the fees. If it is not, then the person hasn't paid the fees. M-test is mathematics test score. P-test is physics test score. I think you guys don't have P-test in your table. That's fine. I think you have till M-test, right? So let's discuss a few queries. How to write queries on this table? Okay. How do we create a query object, or how do we create a query object? So again, query is also an object. So we'll go to create, and you will see queries here. If you're using the older version, then queries will be the last option right over here. Okay, so create, and then there are two ways to create the queries. One is the wizard way, just like how in lookup we create the wizard way where it asks some questions and we gave and then it created the lookup. But here we'll not use that wizard way because I really want you to get your hands dirty. I really want you to learn the coding bit of the SQL. It's not very difficult, anyways. It's very English friendly. So I'll click on query design. Okay, you'll create a query object. See, I can see query object that got created, right? And then it'll show you show table and so forth. But close this because I want to actually type in everything by myself. So it has created the query object, query 30, and then we'll change the view to SQL view of that query object. Again, I'll repeat the steps. This time you will help me. I'll go to create and then query design. Close this show table thing because we want to type in everything, and then change the view to from design view to SQL view. Right? In many databases, you will not have any other view but only the SQL view. I get your point. In some databases, modern databases, they actually hide the SQL view because most of the people do not know how to code it. Okay, but I really want you to get your hands dirty in coding so that you become platform independent. Okay. So this is the SQL view of this query. Let me open. So this is now SQL is not case sensitive. It is not line sensitive. That means you can write everything in one line. You can write everything in small, everything in caps, mixed, however you want to write. It is not case sensitive or line sensitive. Semicolon means end of SQL statements. In some databases, it is mandatory. In some databases, it is optional. Here it is optional. The reason why it is optional in this database is that here, for each individual query, you create a new query object. But for example, in SAS, when we write SQL codes, then you write it in one notepad kind of a thing. In single notepad, you write multiple SQL queries. So there it becomes important to know where one SQL query ended and where the next query started. So that's where semicolon becomes an important thing because that reflects that okay, this query is over now. I get a point, but here it does not because for every query we'll create a new query object. Is it making sense? And in one query window, you can write only one SQL query. I'll demonstrate that to you anyways. So select from where is the basic construct. Select from where is the basic construct. After from, what do you think should come? The table name. Let's write student. Remember, it is not case sensitive, but it is spelling sensitive. You can't write students and expect it to work when the table name is student without an S, right? After from, what could come? What do you think will come after from? After where? Huh? Haji? Field name. But what is the use of field name? Basically, any condition that we want to write. So any conditions. Say for example, if I write m test greater than 90, that means we're looking for students who have scored more than 90 in which field? In mathematics test or m test field. So if I run it, I'll see all the students who have scored more than 90 in maths. How do I run it? You see design here. Under design, there is a run option. Make sense? After running it, if you want to go back to what? To the SQL view, then you can right click and go back to the SQL view. Make sense? What if I write a few more conditions here and sex equal to F? What does it mean? That I'm looking for females who have scored more than 90 in maths. Now, if you want to also show the gender, you can, right? So, a couple of things to notice here, right? After from, you write the table from where you are collecting the data. After where, you write the condition. Do you think where is always required? Suppose if I don't write where, what would happen? Will it run or not? It will display the entire table, right? Without any condition. It will not filter out any students, right? We can write everything in one line also, by the way. Or we can write them in different lines. To run, you go to design, run. You to go back, you right click and go to SQL view. Clear? Is comma and necessary? Comma is, we need, Simanti asked, is comma and, comma and space necessary? Comma is required after the field names, after select. Okay, space, if you want, you can remove. However, it's a good practice to have space. You know, it becomes more readable that way. Make sense? The second question was, do we need to be in the current database from where we are querying? If you mean whether the database should be open while writing the query, yes. In MS Access, yes. In some databases, you can actually, without even, I mean, the database should be actually running somewhere. Suppose in a very, very large organization, what happens is that you have a database stored in a server, right? And let's say you have a client interface in front of you where you're running the queries. So you actually first, like here in the from, I've given the table name because we are working the same database. But let's say if you are running this query outside the database server, then you would have first written the database location. Maybe it is D drive something, some server name, right? Dot database. Then the table would have come. I get a point. It's like giving the entire path where the database is. Here we are not giving that path because we are working in the same database. Clear? Can you assign a shortcut to run the command, to run the SQL commands? The shortcut is already there. I have not told you yet. The shortcut to run the command is Alt plus Q plus R. Alt query run. Alt Q for query and run. Alt Q R. And to go back after running, if you want to go back to the query, then Alt view Q. So Alt V Q. Make sense? Clear is? Couple of things. Did you notice that I put F under pair of double quote? Why have I put F in under pair of double quotes? Because this is a text value. Any text values are put under pair of double quotes or pair of single quotes. Okay? And any date values, for example, DOB greater than hash hash 01 January 1987. Any date values are put under pair of hash in MS Access SQL, Microsoft SQL. In some databases, you can put the dates under pair of single quotes as well. But here you have to put the date values under pair of hashes. I get a point. Pound symbol. Can we use functions, not Excel functions? I would want to say, because Excel functions may be totally different from SQL functions. But many of the functions sound similar, or in fact, they act similarly as well. Yes, you can work with functions. If that is the question, I'm going to demonstrate that to you very shortly today. Is it making sense? It's not case sensitive. You can write everything in small, everything in caps. SQL is not case sensitive. Remember, we would not write across the field names, the hashes or the pair of square, pair of double quotes. Only across the values. Make sense? Only across the values. Do you guys remember BODMAS rule from mathematics? So in general, all mathematical rules are applied here because SQL also follows relational algebra, which is maths. What would this mean? What would this condition mean? What would this condition mean? So it'll show you females who have scored more than 90 and who were born after 1st January 1987, or it'll show you the males who got more than 95. So it shows me all these data from my table. Let's print the DOB as well and let's see. Make sense? Clear, guys? So the sequence, execution sequence is what? See, the writing sequence is like this, select from where, right? But the system does not read it in the same sequence. The system always reads it in this sequence. From, first, select, last. Everything else is sequential. See, even though we write it select from where and then we'll learn about more commands, but the system does not read in the select from where sequence. The system will first check whether the table exists or not. So the system first checks from, first runs from, then all the other commands sequentially, and then select at the end. Is it making sense? So going with that philosophy, first the system will open the student table, then within the student table, it will apply these conditions. That means the rows that would match these conditions. What are these conditions? The first condition is that female students who have scored more than 90 in maths and who were born after 1st January 1987. Right? That is the first condition. Clear? Or, because there is an or, right? So either this condition or this condition. M test greater than 95 and sex equal to F. Sex equal to M. Does it make sense? Then it will select those rows which meet these conditions. From those rows, it will print what values, what columns? Only these columns. Make sense? Clear? What if I replace or with and? Arko's question. Will you have a student who is both male and female, who has scored both greater than 90 and greater than 95? No, of course not, right? SQL Server Management Studio is also a paid tool, and it's also expensive. Not everyone will have it, and plus it is very resource heavy. Earlier I used to use Oracle, then I moved to MySQL, then I moved to Access. Oracle, why I moved from Oracle is that half the time people will keep complaining, sir, it's not working, or something else is going on in the system. Because you see, those requires Oracle requires much more resource. MySQL was not so resource heavy, but then half the people would get scared looking at that black interface half the time because the interface is not so friendly. So then I moved to MS Access, which is typically there with most of the people. There is no downtime because of installation. Right. I mean, again, there are pros and cons to both the things, but I still find that Oracle more, I would want to say, user friendly than SQL Server. But again, I mean, there are people who use SQL Server more effectively than Oracle. But the idea here is that I'm not making you an expert in any tool. That's not the idea. And I'm not making you a DBA for SQL Server. I'm not making you a DBA for Oracle. That's not what the goal of this program is. The goal of this program is to make you a good analyst. That means I want you to understand SQL pretty well. I don't care whether you know PLSQL. I don't care whether you know stored procedures. I don't care whether you know how to create forms and forms or user interfaces. I'm more concerned about whether you can write SQL queries by yourself. Because as a business analyst or as an analyst or working in analytics teams, you're supposed to be able to write queries by yourself. If you get stuck, you should be able to research R&D and then still find answer. So that is the level that I want to take you to. So we'll work on 200 plus queries, and I think that's going to be sufficient. Now that said, you understood the can access be used? No, no, it's not about access be used. Access is a database. It can host data. So the question could have been, can access be used to manage large amount of data? Well, the limit is 2 GB here. But again, there is no limit to the end of the size of a database. Again, repeating myself, the focus is to make you learn SQL, so that you can run it in a very, very large data. You can run it in small data as well. I get a point. I don't want to spend half an hour waiting for one query to run. Towards the end of the class, we will start running some queries which will take a few minutes, right? But I don't want to waste time waiting for a query to run so much time, because I know that if the data is 100 or if the data is 100 million, the query is going to remain the same. Alrighty, I want to talk about one more thing quickly. Couple of things, in fact, quickly. So you understood, right? The why have you used? So again, and going back to that question that someone at Arco has asked, I think if I run with and, I'll get no result, right? So there's no technical problem in this query. There's a logical problem in this query. I got a point. Now you all understood why I have used brackets here. Because again, within the bracket, it's one set, another set of condition again in one bracket, so they'll be executed together at this level, right? To define the condition separately, to make sure that the conditions run separately, right? Now, a couple of more things to understand here, guys, okay? Let's say I want to show the average of maths and physics. I want to show the average of maths and physics for each student. So I write m test plus p test divided by 2. This is an expression that I've created by myself. Does it make sense? Now if I run it, I get this data, right? Couple of things to notice here. What is the column name? Some random name. EXPR1001 or something like that. What if I want to give it a meaningful name? Why is it giving a random name? Because obviously this is a derived column. This column wasn't there in the original table. So let's create an alias name or a temporary name for this field, this column. Let's call it as average. Remember with select, we can't add a column to a table, right? So it's not as if, it's not making any changes to the table. It hasn't made any. It's not as if the average column got added to this table or anything like that. Is it making sense? That's what. Yes. But then that would find average for the entire set. And I'll show you in a couple of classes. Again, I'm going to show you. What if I want to round the result to 0 decimal place? So just like in Excel, we use functions. Here also we use functions. So I'll use a function called as round, which happens to be the same function, similar function in Excel. So round of this comma 0 would mean what? Whatever is this expression's output, rounded up to which? How many decimal places? Huh? 2. No decimal places. 0 लिखा ना? 2 is to find average. So now it is rounded up to 0 decimal place. Does it make sense? So I think everyone understand what a function is, right? Function is a thing which computes something and returns you some value. So here, this round is a function and it starts after round. There will be an opening and closing parenthesis. So this a function this parenthesis opened and this is closed over here. And then these are the parameters. So there are two parameters that this function accepts. The first parameter is the expression that we want to round, and the second parameter is the number of decimal places that we want to round it to. Make sense? Clear? So I'm going to share. I've shared this document with you. It says arithmetic dates and SQL functions, which contains a list of functions which are very frequently used in SQL. It's not a complete comprehensive list, but this contains a list of functions which are at least good to start with. And after that, you can always Google and you can find out. And we'll also do a lot of functions together. So these are the arithmetic operators which are supported here: plus, minus, asterisk for product, exponentiation, division, forward slash, and integer backward slash is integer division. What is an integer division? Integer division gives you uh, the whole number portion. So suppose if you do 5 integer division 2, if you do normal division 5 divided by 2, you'll get 2.5. But if you do 5 integer division 2, then it doesn't round up. Remember, it is not a rounding of value. This is one of the most common misconception about integer division. It doesn't round up, round down, nothing. It just chops the decimal portion, removes the decimal portion, and gives you the whole number, the integer portion of it. Does it make sense? It doesn't round up, round down. That's the main difference between rounding up and round down and integer division. So let's say integer division of 14 by 6, right, will give you what? 2, right? Does it make sense? And mod is also a very commonly used mathematical function. It gives you the remainder. 5 mod 2 will give you 1, right? Basically, integer division gives you the quotient, and this thing gives you the remainder, the mod. Again, I spoke about the BODMAS rule, right? So parenthesis, percent, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, and so forth. And then there are these functions. For example, format. What does format function do? Format function can change the format of a integer value to something. For example, suppose here, right now it says 68, says 90, and so forth. What if I want to show this value as in terms of percentage? In terms of percentage. So what I'll do is that format percent. You see this? Format this entire expression in percent. But then the only issue is that it'll put 6800, 9000, and so forth. So we have to also do one more thing here called as, so what we'll have to do? Divided by 100. Make sense? I could have changed the format to currency, to fixed, to standard, to scientific, to yes, no, and so forth. So look at this: format price into 1.1 comma currency. So it put a dollar sign. After incrementing the price by 10%, because you're multiplying it by 1.1, you'll put a dollar sign before the price. Does it make sense? Some of the most commonly used numeric data functions: square, SQR, for finding the square root, SQR 9, 3. ABS to find the absolute value, removes the negative, makes the negative value positive. Round round we just saw, we'll round it up. Fix and int, both will give you integer division. That means fix of 8.89 will give you 8. Again, it doesn't round up, round down. It just removes the decimal portion. Fix 8.89 will give you 8. Int 8.89 will also give you 8. But the only difference between fix and int is that if there is a negative number and if you're using int, then it will round it down. So int of minus 8.9 will give you minus 9. It won't give you minus 8. That's the only difference. There's no difference in terms of positive values though. R&D function is a dumb function. It just creates a random number between 0 and 1. Doesn't accept any argument. Just R&D, it will create a random function between 0 and 1. At times we use it to kind of randomize the data. For example, R&D creates a random number between 0 and 1. Huh. That's the thing. It creates only one random number between 0 and 1. Val is an interesting function. It extracts the numeric portion from an alphanumeric string. The only condition is that the string should start with a number. It only extracts numbers from the beginning of the string. The moment it finds a text character, it stops the extraction. So for example, if that string is 14B Camac Street, which is the address of Ivy here at Calcutta, so then it will extract 14. And let's say the full address is 14B Camac Street, 5th floor, 70017, but it won't extract 5th floor 5, it won't extract 7, the pin code as well. It will only extract 14 from the beginning because it stops the extraction the moment it encounters a text character. So converts numeric data in text field into a bona fide number so that you can use it in calculation. It stops as soon as it finds a non-numeric character and returns 0 if it can't find any numbers. Make sense? Space is always treated as a character, not a number. Right? It'll extract only 14 because the moment it encounters text, it stops. Yet it is a useful function, especially during data cleaning time. Format we have seen. Functions for text, we will discuss them again in detail later. UCase will convert everything to uppercase. LCase will convert everything into lowercase. Left will extract characters from the beginning, from the left. So left hi there, comma 2 will extract H and I. Remember, space is a counted character always. Make sense? Right will extract characters from the right hand side, from the end. So right hi there, comma 5 will extract 5 characters from the end, from right to left. So 1, 2, so there, it'll extract there, right? Mid can extract characters from anywhere in the middle of the text string where you specify. So you can specify that start extraction from the third character onwards. Extract 2 characters from the third position using mid. So mid, hi there, comma 4, comma 2. So that means from the fourth position, extract how many characters? 2 characters. What will trim do? Trim removes any unnecessary space from a string. Let's say if there are spaces at the beginning of the string, before the beginning of the string, and there are spaces at the end of the string. So all those spaces will be removed. But if there is only one space between 2 words in a string, high space there, and there's only one space between that, then it won't remove that one space. Does it make sense? Len will find the total number of characters in a string, including the space. Space is counted as a character. Does it make sense? And then there are some important date functions that we will discuss now. Like in Excel, you have today, which gives you current system date. Here in SQL, you have a function called as date. In SQL, you have a function called as date, which gives you current system date. Date. It doesn't accept any argument. Make sense? And then we have now. Now will give you current system date and time, right? Then we have date part, which is an interesting function. With date part, you can extract a part of a date. Let's say, for example, from a date you want to extract year. From a date you want to extract month. From a date you want to extract day. From a date and time you want to extract hours, minutes, seconds. I get your point. अच्छा यहाँ पे ना it's little there is a typo here. The idea is that this D is the date component, which reflects as to what do you want to extract. These are the date components. Suppose if you want to extract year, then you'll write Y Y Y Y. If you want to extract month, then you write M. If you want to extract quarter, then you write Q. If you want to extract D, then day, then you'll write D. If you want to extract week, then you'll write W. If you want to extract week of the year from 1 to 52, then you'll write double W. H for hour, N for minute, S for second, and so forth. So here, date part, then the date component, and then the date. Suppose date part, let's say I want to extract YYY from DOB as year of birth. Make sense? If instead of YYY, if I had written M, clear? How about date serial? Suppose you got three columns. You got month in one column, day in another column, and year in the third column. And now you're going to consolidate all of them and create a date column. It's the opposite of date part. Right? In date part, we were segregating them. But in date serial, if you want to consolidate them. I get a point. So that's when you'll use date serial. So in date serial, suppose you write year, then month, then the day. Right? And create a year, create a date. Clear, guys? No, the format is simple: year, month, and then day. Uh, yes, they are synced with the installation in your machine. So that is why I recommend the format to use. Not, I don't recommend this format. I don't recommend the hyphen or the slash format. I recommend 01 hyphen the month name hyphen the year. That is universal, no confusion. It won't really matter as to how your system was installed, whether with Indian configuration, US configuration, or whichever country's configuration. Did you understand the format that I'm talking about? 01 hyphen Jan in characters hyphen the year 1987 or something like that. Month, month name, weekday, weekday name, hour, day, minute, second. These are all functions. For example, if you want to extract, suppose I want to extract month, then I'll use month and I'll extract month in numeric between 1 and 12. I get your point. Clear? Similarly, if you want to extract day, if you want to extract year, if you want to extract weekday, so it'll give you a value between 1 and 7. 1 would mean Sunday by default if your system is installed with US configuration. Otherwise, 1 would mean Monday if your system is installed with Indian configuration. How do we check that? You can use weekday name, which converts a number between 1 and 7 into a string value. But remember, weekday name will not accept a date field. Weekday name will only accept what? A value between 1 and 7. That means you have to use weekday to extract the day of the week between 1 and 7, and then you can use weekday name on top of it to convert that into a string value. Does it make sense? Clear, guys?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, my internet connection was lost, so I couldn't hear whatever you have discussed in the class. So after the class, will you please explain me? So whatever
No,
topic
no,
you have
not after the
covered
class. I have to
between six.
leave. But you can actually watch the video, Ritankar. Ask your coordinator; they will send you the video right
Okay,
away. I mean, by tomorrow itself, and then you can watch the video. And if
okay,
you would
okay.
have any
You have
problem,
discussed the
then
same
let me
thing in
know.
that video.
Yeah, 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 same thing.
Okay, okay, okay. No, it's okay.
Now, you understood what weekday function will do, right? It will extract a day out of a date. I'll give you a number between 1 and 7. And weekday name function will do what? Okay. Let me ask you this question. Huh? Can I write something like this? What is wrong in this? First, we need to extract the month. Then we can convert that month into month name. So, month of DOB, and then it will work. Does it make sense? See, it gives you the month in string. Clear, guys? Okay, guys. So I think we have covered all the functions also. What I want you guys to do is that I've uploaded the database for you, right? I'm uploading the first assignment, which has only 6 questions in it. Only 6 questions. 6 queries, that is. Okay? Only 6 questions. Which database are you supposed to use? The student database. Alright, we have not discussed the cakes and fudges in the music school here, or did we discuss the solution? No? So we'll discuss the solution to those assignments in the next class. Just remind me, okay? Alrighty, guys, then I'll see you guys next weekend. You understood what you're supposed to do, right? The database is already uploaded. Which is the database? This student's database, right? You know how to write a query, you know how to save a query. Remember to save the queries. Once you've written a query, right click and save. Do not keep overwriting the way I've been overwriting, because that way you will not have saved the query. And when you upload the data, when you upload your assignment, don't upload this database. Just save the query in a Word file or in a notepad and upload that notepad file. Okay, save the queries, not output. I don't care about the output. I want to see the queries. Is it making sense? All right, guys, I'll see you then. Have a great one. हेलो. हाँ, अच्छा आ गया. अच्छा अच्छा. एक 2 मिनट दीजिए, मैं पहुंच जाऊंगा.